Welcome everybody, this is Dr. Mintzy, and thank you for tuning in to this week's wellness tip. Today we're going to talk about something that could be a little discomforting, but knowledge is power, and if you know, then you can go and you can change things and be healthier and function better. We're going to talk about 5 foods in your refrigerator that are weakening your immune system and making you fatter. The number of people that come in the office and are concerned about weight gain is astronomical. Almost 80% of the patients come in and have some sort of concern about how they can keep trim and stay healthy and build immunity. Well, it just so happens that you have at least 5 foods in your refrigerator, or 5 items that are in the foods that are doing just that, weakening you in terms of immune system and adding to your girth. Let's talk about these. That way you can go through the refrigerator and throw them out one by one. The first one is yogurt. Now before you fall out your chair, or if you've fallen out and you're about to get back up, it's not all yogurt. Homemade yogurt isn't in this category. Yogurt that you probably buy from a small farmer is not in this category. But what is in this category is commercially prepared yogurt. I don't want to name any companies, but I would say ones that are in tubes and sweetened for kids usually probably aren't very good for a number of reasons. Number one is the amount of sugar. So unless the yogurt is plain, if it is commercial yogurt that is plain, you can still do better, but that's a good place to start and something to use. If it has flavoring added, if it has vanilla added, if it has sugar added, if it has an artificial sweetener, or if it doesn't, it's going to be loaded with sugar. By some measurements, we see as much as 6 teaspoons of sugar. That's 25 grams of sugar in a small container of yogurt. And each manufacturer lists it so differently that it's nearly impossible for a consumer to figure out just how much sugar is really in that yogurt. And this is terrible because, as you know from previous episodes on this channel, we talked about the impact that sugar has on your immune system. But it also has a tremendous impact on your insulin levels. It increases your risk of diabetes and causes you to store more fat. So the first thing that you must get out of your refrigerator, even if you're addicted to it, is flavored commercial yogurt. And you must stop giving this to your children. Give them some plain yogurt, cut up some fruit yourself and add it to it, put a drop or 2 of stevia in it. You'll be good to go. Remember, yogurt is number one of the 5 foods that we are going to discuss in this program, in this episode, and episodes that come after this, of the 5 foods that are making you fatter and weakening your immune system. Stay tuned for the next one, which we'll talk about really soon. Hey everybody, welcome back. Dr. Mincey here. We're continuing our discussion on the 5 items that are weakening your immune system and making you fatter. And these items just happen to be in your refrigerator. And this next one connects very closely to the first one in many ways. Because we know yogurt, commercial yogurt, should be avoided at all costs. But it's because it contains simple sugars. And those simple sugars increase our insulin levels, make us fat, and they suppress immunity. And if you're unsure about what I'm talking about, you should check out some of my previous videos. All the information is there with 1 or 2 references that tell us that there are some clues. But I also have many years of clinical practice that confirm all the things that I'm telling you. Number 2 on our list of items that you need to get out of your refrigerator is Hufkas, or high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup. Do you remember years ago there was a commercial that came on and there were 2 people standing there and one person said, "What's wrong with high fructose corn syrup?" and the other person said nothing and looked dumbfounded as if they were wrong? Well, I'll tell you what's wrong with high fructose corn syrup. It is a simple sugar, and simple sugars decrease functioning of a person's immune system. We've known that since 1973, so it's not a news flash. It is processed under high pressure with the toxic metal nickel, and so those residues have to be present. And it is loaded in foods like yogurt with other sugars, increasing the sugar concentration amount and having a negative impact on a person's insulin levels, which would make them fatter and in some cases psychotic from blood sugar going up and down in the case of hyperactive children and adults. So high fructose corn syrup has many issues associated with it, and you should get this out of your refrigerator and avoid any package that has high fructose corn syrup on it. And if you're not sure, think about it for yourself. Think about the times you've eaten and how you felt and how your immunity is. Or look at kids that it's been fed to. The Canadian Association of Neurosurgeons found that high fructose corn syrup was addictive. So people would have high fructose corn syrup and have to have more and go back and want to buy more of the product. So these little yogurts, which were sweet, that they thought they were doing the right thing and putting friendly bacteria in, meanwhile they were loading themselves up with sugar, getting fatter, and getting even more addictive so they could come back and buy more and more and more. And in my mind, big industry, big food industry wants people to be addicted so they can sell more product. The next thing the Canadian Association of Neurosurgeons found was that high fructose corn syrup was inflammatory. And I don't know if you know this, but if something's inflammatory, it is causing an immune system reaction. And when something's inflammatory over a long period of time, it is weakening or damaging to the immune system because the body can't keep up. So when a person's consuming salad dressing with a little high fructose corn syrup and then a bowl of cereal the same day or week with a little high fructose corn syrup, and then a yogurt the same week with a little high fructose corn syrup, and then a juice the same week, all that high fructose syrup adds up to multiple assaults on the immune system and a weakened immune system and a larger girth. And people want to know why they're getting fatter. Your best bet is to avoid high fructose corn syrup and get it out of your refrigerator. Do a 2-week test and see how much better you feel. That's the number 2 food or item in your foods that's in your refrigerator that you must get rid of. Please stay tuned as we discuss the number 3 item in your refrigerator. I'm Dr. Tyrone Mincey. We'll be back. Continuing our discussion today, we're going to go to our number 3 item or food that's in your refrigerator that's weakening your immune system and making you fatter. Just does it at different rates in different people. What could it be? It's everywhere. As a matter of fact, you probably couldn't walk through a town and not go to a store that has it. People like to have it first thing in the morning. They like to make dessert with it. They like to put things between it. What could it be? And what would the world be like without it? It's wheat. Wheat. Interesting. Wheat is a problem. It's inflammatory, and it has a lot of parts to it that create health problems in different people. Back in the 70s, wheat was one of the first crops to be genetically modified. And during that process, they increased the amount of gluten in the wheat by 500%, according to the author of Wheat Belly. Now, if that's true, 500% is a lot of an increase. And it makes sense that people in contemporary times are having so many problems with wheat and gluten intolerance. But wheat has a whole bunch of other issues associated with it outside of gluten intolerance. And if we could picture a cell in our body, that cell has little places where hormones and chemicals attach. And there's this drug called opium that you probably have heard of. It's extremely addictive. And the cells have one area where the opium likes to attach. and causes the body to crave or want this. Well, here's the thing that's interesting. Opium is like violently addictive. People do terrible things to get a hold of it. It ruins their lives. Wheat, on the other hand, is a weak chemical that behaves just like opioids. But it does it in a very weak fashion. So in the United States, people are addicted to wheat because it behaves like opium and attaches to that part of the cell, and they can't give it up. So they go to the store and they think that they want this item when really, truly, it's nothing more than an addiction to something that's loaded with chemicals that for many people cause problems. So wheat is opioid-like, and it's addictive. And you could do a Google search and find information on this, but the one book that seems to offer the best explanation is the book called Wheat Belly, and I suggest you read it. I also suggest if you are overweight, or you have mystery health problems, or if you're immune compromised, that you consider changing from wheat or eliminating wheat from your diet and do a 2-week test to see if that's true for you. It's simple, powerful, and could be life-changing. The reality is wheat is overconsumed if there's nothing else wrong with it, and probably most of us could decrease the amount that we use to a few to 3 times a week. If we did that, we might experience healthier weight, better immune system function, and we'd probably be happier and more sane, considering that the type of behavior that comes from stimulating areas on the cell like opioids borders insane in some people, like psychotic. All that from wheat? Yeah. And think about the hyperactive kids who have wheat sensitivities, the ones who can't sit down. If you're a parent and you have a hyperactive kid, you really need to get this out of your refrigerator. I think everybody needs to do it and test and see if indeed it's something that needs to be addressed. So wheat is the number 3 food that's in your refrigerator that's weakening your immune system for sure if overconsumed, or if you have a sensitivity to it, and is making you fatter for sure because it will increase insulin levels and cause gastric distress in some people. Stay tuned as we go on to the number 4 item in your refrigerator that's making you fat and weakening your immunity. Welcome back, and here we are talking about the number 4 chemical or thing that's added to food, and it is a chemical, I kind of let the cat out the bag, that is weakening your immune system and making you gain weight. And this one is going to be found in foods you probably really shouldn't be eating anyway, but I'm not going to tell you not to eat them because you're probably going to eat them anyway, so instead we're going to guide you to how to safely eat them. You are better off in most cases having small amounts of real fat than you are large amounts of fake fat. And the next ingredient was created in 1984 because someone got a bright idea to make a fat substitute and convinced the FDA that it was a good idea, and they came up with this item called Olestra. And Olestra created problems when it was released, lots of digestive problems, indigestion, diarrhea, and it wasn't tolerated very well, so manufacturers started pulling back from using Olestra, yet it was not outlawed. It is still on the market. It is still in foods that are high fat. An example of a high fat food would be anything that's fried, potato chips, pork rinds, any of those prepared packages that you really probably shouldn't be eating anyway, but if you're going to eat it, don't eat the one that contains the Olestra. Eat the one that contains the real fat, because it may create digestive problems. But to make matters even worse, Purdue University in 2011 did a study that found that people who consumed Olestra in their study actually got fatter. What's the point? Go have the fat. Be temperate, have only a little, and get this out of your refrigerator, out of your house, out of your life. You do that, you'll improve immunity, you'll improve your weight, And if you've been consuming it, you probably need to detox, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we're going to go on next to the fifth item that's in your refrigerator that's making you kill your immunity and gain weight. Hi, it's Dr. Mincey, Dr. Tyran Mincey, and we're back to talk about number 5 out of the 5 foods that are in your fridge that are weakening your immune system and making you fatter. And this last one is a little known item that I have had an issue with for many years. It has been present in the so-called natural foods and the natural food stores that we all go to and give our entire check to at times. And the places that we think are serving us healthy food, maybe they think they're doing the best thing, but based on the knowledge and understanding I have of the human body and its function, this item is in so many different products that it's being put in the human body in too large a quantity, and I would argue that it's creating artificial deficiencies that are present because you're putting too much of one thing there and maybe creating health problems. And there are some clues out there that are telling us that maybe we'd be better off if we just avoided this altogether. It just seems that no matter what we do, if we try to get around nature, it seems to often come right back to us as wrong answer. So the number 5 ingredient is going to fall into the category of preservatives, and it's called citric acid. And for all you people that have dedicated yourselves to eating right and being well, go to your refrigerator right now. I challenge you, and grab a bottle of salsa you bought from the natural food store and look at it, and the ingredient will be right there: citric acid. It is in everything. If you sit down and add up the number of products with citric acid that you eat on a daily basis, it's a problem. I've told people for many years, the best way to eat is to shop like a caveman. And I borrowed that from a friend of mine named Phil Maffetone. Shop like a caveman. And what does that mean? That means you shop the perimeter of the grocery store. If you're shopping the aisles in the middle of the grocery store, you're going to find the 5 foods that are weakening your immune system and making you fatter. However, on the perimeter of the grocery store, you usually find the foods that go bad faster and also don't have as many preservatives. But there is one issue with citric acid. It's difficult to avoid if you eat meat, because most butchers treat the meat with a spray that contains special viruses that kill bacteria, as well as citric acid oftentimes. The citric acid is used as a protective colorant to keep the color in the meat, and it's done for beef and poultry. So people are consuming this and they have no idea. If you go to natural farmers or farmers who raise cattle for you, or if you go to a butcher and you ask for meat that doesn't or hasn't been treated with citric acid, you may be able to do better. It may cost you a bit more because the shelf life is shorter, but I have a feeling you'll be healthier in the long run because your body doesn't have to detoxify the excess citric acid. What else is the big deal? I'm not the only one that has the opinion. If we look here, we know there was a report generated by Michigan Medicine that said the safety of citric acid has never been studied. And there's other evidence in the literature that citric acid causes arthritis or exacerbates arthritis and is implicated as a cause of autism. Think about that. While everyone's not going to be sensitive to every single item that's put in the food, some people are. No 2 people react the same to things that are added to drugs or chemicals. And scientists know this, and we've known it for a very long time. That's why the precautionary principle, I think, applies here, that we should get rid of citric acid. We should allow the manufacturer to put in if they want to and vote with our wallet. But as people who shop, we shop around the outside of the store and we buy food that doesn't have citric acid. And that brings another thought to mind. For the people who have found great relief in avoiding the consumption of flesh and meat, I submit to you that maybe it wasn't the meat that was the problem. Maybe it's the citric acid they've been treating it with for so many years. Maybe it's the husbandry practices. Think about it. That's number 5 of the foods in your fridge that are weakening your immune system and making you fatter. Citric acid also disrupts a central function of the human body in the production of energy. And the result of that function is it creates energy and it creates citric acid. And when we load the system with citric acid, we also disrupt that. So we have to figure out a way, once we've consumed all 5 of these foods, to detoxify them from our body. Stopping today is not enough. The residues are there, lodged in the fat tissues, and as you lose weight, the body's going to have challenges with it. So how does one manage or navigate in a toxic world when they have the toxins in their refrigerator, killing their immunity and increasing their waistline? I thought about it and I decided I needed to write a book. So I wrote this book called The Art of Detoxification. It's an introductory book that has checklists, and it's a very simple, easy to follow guide for people who really aren't familiar with this particular territory. You can find this book on Amazon. There is an audiobook on Amazon, and there's a digital book on Amazon. You can get any of those and listen to it and start using the information that's in here to deal with the residues of glyphosate that are in the wheat that we said that you need to avoid, to deal with the blood sugar imbalances that are caused by the high fructose corn syrup, to deal with the chemicals and the residues that are in the yogurt, and finally to deal with the issues that we have with citric acid and other chemicals that we've overloaded the body with. This is a very important process and contributes to enhancing immunity and a balanced, healthy metabolism and weight. I'm Dr. Tyran Mincey. Once again, it's been a pleasure sharing this information with you. Feel free to contact the office or come in if you have questions, and be sure to subscribe to our channel and share this information with friends, because it's not knowledge that's power, it's the application of knowledge. Till next time.